Express entry system was introduced in the year 2015. Ever since the inception, the average CRS cutoff score has been on the rise. In the year 2017-2018, 430s and 440s used to be a really good CRS score. But come 2020, even 460s is looking a bit doubtful. With this being said, there is a big question going on in the minds of married couple. Should I apply alone or should I also include my spouse in the application? What are the advantages of spouse not accompanying and what are the disadvantages? So if you're having all these questions too, then this video is absolutely for you. So stay tuned and watch till the end. Hey, my name is Ajay. I'm the founder of Maple Assistance. If you're looking to immigrate to Canada without spending lakhs and lakhs of rupees on consultancies, or if you're finding hard to crack your IELTS, then you are at the right place and you should definitely subscribe to this channel. And before we go on to today's video, I would like you to pause for a minute and just type in the comment whether you wish to apply as a single applicant or with your spouse. And now, let us get on to the video. First of all, let us try to understand what spouse unaccompanied means. If you are a married person wanting to get a Canadian PR, then the Government of Canada is giving you an option to apply as a single applicant even though you're married. There are a number of reasons why people appreciate this option. The first and foremost reason is the job. So let us assume both the husband and wife in their home country are in a very good job and they are earning a decent salary. When they get their PR, they want to be secured at least in terms of one person's salary. So what really happens is that one person sticks to their job here in India or in their home country, wherein the other person gets the PR and they go there and they check the job market. Once everything is settled, then the other person leaves up their job here and they go join their partner there in Canada. The second reason would be kids. So I have seen a lot of people, come and tell me that Ajay, I don't want to take my family along because my kids are very young. So you might be having a kid who is 1 year old or 2 year old or even like a newborn kid. Then it might be very hard for you to manage all alone. That's the reason why many people actually choose to go single instead of taking their family. So kids are a second big reason. The third reason would be CRS points. So basically, when you're applying with your spouse, they actually tend to affect your CRS score. When you're applying alone, you tend to have a slight advantage depending on what your spouse contributes to the CRS score. If your spouse is not able to contribute to your CRS score, then you might prefer to apply alone instead of applying with your spouse. So we'll be looking into this thing in detail in few minutes. The last reason would be uncertainty over the new environment. So basically, going to another country is going to be really hectic. It's not going to be a very welcoming experience. So initial struggle is definitely going to be there. So as a family, they might think that why to face all these things together. So initially, one person might go there, test how things are, and once everything is fine, then they tend to bring the other person to Canada. So these are some of the reasons why people prefer to apply as a single applicant. And remember guys, I have to tell you this. There were few people who have come to me and asked, Ajay, is it okay to hide that I'm married? The answer is definite no. You should never hide in your application that you're actually married. If you're actually married, you have to, and if you want to go alone, the best thing that you can do is go for spouse unaccompanied. Because if IRCC comes to know that you have actually lied to them, then your profile would be blacklisted and you cannot apply to Canada for the next 5 years. Now let us try to understand how a spouse can actually affect the CRS score of a primary applicant. Basically, a spouse can actually contribute 40 CRS points to the primary applicant. 10 points in terms of education, 20 points in terms of language test, and 10 points again in terms of Canadian work experience. Let us assume that your spouse is well educated and they can really contribute in terms of the language test. Then adding your spouse to your profile makes a lot of sense. But in case if your spouse doesn't have a bachelor's or a master's degree, and if he or she cannot contribute that great in terms of the language test, then they might actually weigh your CRS score down. So this is one good reason why you should consider spouse unaccompanied. Let's now do a quick case study and try to understand how the education and the IELTS score of your spouse is actually affecting the primary applicant CRS score. Here is the case study which I was talking about, guys. So in this case study, for our illustration, I am assuming that the primary applicant's age is 29 years and the education is master's and the work experience is 5 years and the person has scored a perfect CLB 9, that is 8777 in IELTS. So this is the primary applicant score. Now, case number 1, spouse not accompanying. So if this person, though he is married, if he is applying as spouse not accompanying, then the CRS score would be 469. Now coming to case 2, now let us assume that spouse is accompanying the primary applicant and the spouse has a master's degree and the spouse also scored 8 and 777 in IELTS. In this case, the CRS score would be 472. Now going to case number 3, here the spouse is again accompanying the primary applicant, but this time the spouse only has the bachelor's degree and has scored 8 and 777 in IELTS, and now the score becomes 470. Moving on to the next case, again the spouse is accompanying. This time spouse has 2 or more degrees and has scored 8 and 777 in IELTS, then the CRS score is 471. Case number 5, the spouse has 2 or more degrees, but this time he or she has scored only 6 in all the modules of IELTS, then the CRS score comes down to 463. Case number 6, spouse is accompanying the primary applicant, spouse has a master's degree and again the IELTS score is all 6, then the CRS score is 464. Case number 7, spouse accompanying, bachelor's degree, all 6 in IELTS, then the CRS score becomes 462. Case 8, spouse accompanying, bachelor's degree, but spouse is scoring only 5 in all the modules of IELTS, then the CRS score is dropping down to 454. Case 9, spouse accompanying, master's degree, all 5 in IELTS, again the CRS score is 456. From the case study, one thing is really clear. If your spouse can actually contribute in terms of IELTS and also in terms of education, it is totally worth to add them in your application. If you feel that your spouse cannot contribute points in terms of language test or in terms of education, then you can actually think of leaving them behind for now, and then you can actually sponsor them later. Here are some of the points that you need to remember. Even though your spouse is not accompanying you, you need to submit few documents such as medical clearance certificate or police clearance certificate. These things are mandatory even if your spouse is not accompanying you. You need to get their medicals examined, you need to get their police clearance certificate, and you need to submit that in your application. And one more important thing, guys. Let us assume that you are a family of 3, husband, wife and a kid. But only the husband is planning to go to Canada. When you are applying as spouse unaccompanied, you should show the proof of funds for 3 members, not for 1 person. So for 3 members, it is close to about 11 lakhs. And if you are applying as a single person, you might think that I need to show only 8.5 lakhs as a fund. No, you need to show the proof of fund for your whole family, even though your family is not accompanying you to Canada. So if you are not maintaining the correct proof of funds, then there is a good chance that your profile will get rejected. So please have these things in mind when you are applying as spouse unaccompanied. Now let us discuss the advantages and disadvantages of spouse not accompanying. Let me start with the advantages first. There are quite a few. The first advantage is in terms of savings. Let us assume that you are a family of 3, husband, wife and a kid, and you want to move to Canada as a family. Imagine the cost involved. You'll have to find an accommodation, at least a single BHK, groceries, bills, transport, and a lot of other stuff. even the setting up cost is going to take you so much of money. Remember guys, you are going to spend all this money from your pocket because initially when you land in Canada, you might not have a job in hand. But if you are going alone, the cost would get reduced by 1/3 or even 1/4 at times. You don't have to worry about the accommodation. You can even stay at a hostel or you can stay in a shared place. And you'll be saving a lot of money when it comes to transport, bills and stuff. So this money saved is money earned. So this is a big advantage if you're going to Canada alone initially. The second advantage is in terms of, testing the whole environment and the country. If you're going alone, what you can actually do is you can go to Canada, see if it is suiting you, see if you're able to get a job. You can decide whether the country will suit your family or not. If it is not going to suit your family, then you can just say goodbye to Canada. You can come back to your country, resume your job and go on with your life. But if you're going with your family, yes, still you can come back, but you would have wasted a lot of energy, time and money. The third advantage is in terms of security, in terms of job. Let us assume that a husband and wife are working in a very decent job in their home country. If only one person is moving to Canada to see the job market, the other person can still stay back in the home country and still keep on working, which means it's giving a moral boost and a financial support to the person who's back there in Canada. So these are some of the advantages of spouse not accompanying. Now moving on to the disadvantages. There are not many, but there is one big disadvantage. If you are someone who is very closely knit to your family, staying away from them for a span of a year or so is going to be really tough. I have personally seen people who have gone to Canada and who have come back just because they were not able to stay away from their family, especially kids. This might not seem like a disadvantage to many of you, but yes, this really matters because once you land in Canada, there will be a lot of challenges right in front of you. You'll have to find a job, you'll have to find a place, you'll have to think of settling down, and all these things happens in an entirely new environment. You'll be around a bunch of new people, so it's going to be really hard, it's going to be really challenging. In those tough times when you miss your family, this can be like adding fuel to fire. So I personally feel that this is one big disadvantage of going there alone. Alright, now comes the big question. You have moved to Canada and now you're thinking of taking your family along. How do you do that? There is something called as spousal sponsorship program. To apply under this program, you need to meet certain criteria. First, you must be staying there in Canada, and number two, you need to have a job there in Canada. So you need to show the income proof that you can actually sponsor your wife or your husband and the kids. So once this is done, you need to submit a bunch of documents. It requires proof of your identity, proof of your relationship, and medical clearance certificate, police clearance certificate of your spouse, and bunch of other forms. You need to get all these things done, and then your visa will get processed. Right now, it's a paper and pen based process, and it is taking around like 12 months for the whole thing to get done. But the government of Canada is working on an electronic application process, and once that is implemented, we can expect the processing time to come down drastically. So this is how you get your spouse to come to Canada once you go there after getting your PR visa. Now we have come to the last part of this video. If you're still confused whether you should apply with your spouse or not, I have a simple solution for you. Both the husband and wife go ahead and take your IELTS and complete your education credential assessment. Calculate your CRS scores with spouse and without spouse. And if the difference in the CRS points is greater than 3, then I would strongly recommend you to apply without your spouse. But if the difference is less than or equal to 3, then you can apply as a family. That's it from me, guys. I hope that you really loved this video. Please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this with your friends. So I'll be back with another video, guys. Until then, it is Ajay signing off. Take care. Bye-bye.